I hate you so much right now.
So yeah.
Go on then, hit me with an intro.
Hello and welcome all into the MO podcast. As always, you're here with me, Contumacious.
And me, Atreya.
And today we are going to be talking about, well, kind of going back to our roots here. We're going to talk about a little bit of true crime.
Ooh.
Or maybe it wasn't. So we'll have to decide at the end. It's an unsolved mystery, I suppose.
Oh, that's good. I still like those.
But there are true crime elements involved, and it's the disappearance of Albert Lowenstein.
I do not think I have ever heard of this one.
Okay.
I'm legit going in blind.
Good. So this case encompasses two of my favourite things. One of them is Belgium, and one of them is having a poo. Now, in fairness, they're not that much different, but here we go. I lived in Belgium, so I can say that. It's alright, don't worry about it.
Uh-huh. You lived in Belgium, like, you're part Jew, you're part Gypsy, you're part Brazil. You lived in Brazil. You're part female. Like, at some point, it's got to stop.
Well, look, see.
We need to call him out.
Unless anyone can prove otherwise, I'm going to keep going with it. So.
Let's ask your wife.
Well, yeah, no.
I'm going to get a number.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So, Albert Leonard Lowenstein was a Belgian rich person. At one point, he was the third richest person in the world. Now, the research came up with he amassed a massive 12 million in the currency of the time. Now, this was the 1920s, so it was like
£200.
it could have been, because it could have been Belgian francs, to be quite frank with you. But apparently,
No pun intended.
Well, yeah, apparently it was equivalent to £739 million that he was worth at the time of his death. So,
What did he do for a living?
now, this just proves that back in the day you could just make money from anything. So he made his money by providing electric power to developing countries. Basically, he just extorted people. He invested in companies that had power plants in these Pacific developing third world countries and then just charged the government whatever.
Wow. Okay, that guy's a genius. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, right, I'm going to prove that I lived in Belgium, right? I knew a gentleman
What you did?
when I lived there, and he was a gentleman. He was called Freddie. He was a very, very lovely guy. Gay as a day, but he was brilliant. He used to come in. He used to come in the bar I worked in, and he used to drink a bottle of Ricard. Now, if you don't know what Ricard is, it's like, I don't want to say it's like Sambuca, but it's aniseed drink, and it's clear, but when you add water to it, it goes white. And he used to come in at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, leave about 5 o'clock, and come back about 8 o'clock, and just drink
Hardcore.
Ricard in water. And he didn't pay; he just had a monthly bill that he'd come in and pay. And his father owned, I'm going to say mines or whatever he owned, but he owned them in Africa. So,
But if he was so lovely, why was he friends with you? Is what I was going to dive in and say.
because I couldn't speak French and he only could speak French, so we kind of got on in that way.
Charades.
Yeah. So he
You do that, don't you? You live in countries, but you don't bother to learn the language. It's weird, that.
Okay, that's not.
I'm counting like 3 times now that you've done this. You've moved to a country and you've lived there. It's not even like it's like, a couple of weeks. This is like a substantial amount of time that you've lived in this country and not picked up anything.
So, see, I
All you're doing is making the stereotypes about British people correct.
that's quite a lot of what the native people who were living in these countries said to me. I am just
Ignorant
a
British.
stereotype. Yeah.
Yes, because you are.
I don't deny that. I did try, but I think languages are like maths. You either can do it or you can't. I can do maths. Can't do languages.
Oh my god, why didn't I message you the other day when I was stuck on that maths assessment? I made the fatal mistake of messaging Nova, and he was like, I don't know, I think it's a quarter.
Well, okay.
There was 4 questions. You can't just answer a quarter to all of those questions. They're different questions. Some of them don't even involve fractions. Next time, I'll message you.
Okay. As long as it's not for anything important, and then I'll stand by that I'm good at maths.
Oh, it was for a level 2 qualification, so...
Yeah, I could do it.
But next time I'll be ringing you. And if you don't know the answer, I'll be like, well, you said it's like maths.
Yeah.
You just know it or you don't.
Set myself up there, don't I, really? Okay, that's on me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway. So, going back to Albert, so basically, he was part of a syndicate that bought companies and then just made money off these companies. And to be quite honest with you, history was on his side at this time because the Mexican Revolution had just happened. So he stepped into South America and Central America and progressed that way. And because of the First World War, there were not that many new companies about. Obviously, they'd been bombed, they'd gone bankrupt, and also electric power was less than 100 years old. So not many people knew about it. So if you were a little bit smart, you could kind of get away with going, this is how we do it. He wasn't an engineer. He was just the guy that financed all of this. And to be honest with you, there was very little regulation, if any. So he kind of got away with it and made his money. From one actual takeover, he walked away with £1 million in his pocket alone, and that's just for one of the companies that he bought. And that wasn't, he hung on to it and obviously made money afterwards, but just by taking over that company, he got a dividend of £1 million. So he was very, very astute as a businessman, and he was quite shrewd. And by the time the 20s had kicked off, he was courted by heads of state and monarchies, and he was actually made a companion of the Most Honourable Order of the Bath by the British government. Now that's kind of like
what?
Yeah, so a companion of the Most Honourable Order of the a companion of the Most Honourable Order of the Bath by the British government. So it's kind of like a knighthood, but apparently you just...
But in a bath.
Yeah, you kind of have to wash your junk in front of people, I think.
What?
A bit like Eton, I think, is basically what it was. You just had to be
Why would
rich,
you have to do that?
just rich, and then just wash your bits in front of people to get ahead. I don't know. But
I don't get that at all.
It's kind of like a CBE and OBE, but it's a very distinctive thing. The monarchy.
I think a man thought of that.
Do you know what I mean? It's the fucking monarchy, innit? I mean, take that as you will.
Oh, no. You don't get to blame this on the monarchy. A ordinary man thought of that.
Whoa. This was given them by the British monarchy. So this was George who did this.
Who was a man?
Well, yeah.
So you can't just blame it on the monarchy in general. Like, George is in fact a man. Okay, it's irrelevant. Nobody said to him, Your Majesty, I think this would be a great idea. What if you kind of knighted people, but you made them, like, soap up their dick in front of you? That could be a new thing. We could trend that, right? We could get this hashtag trending. And George was like, you know what? Amazing. And then after he died, probably Queen Elizabeth was like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore because I don't want to see that shit. So, it was a stupid idea.
Okay. It goes. This wasn't a new thing. It goes back to the time of King Arthur. But
King Arthur wasn't real.
okay, it goes back in time. It was like 1500s. This was created. This order. So
Right. Well, there wasn't a queen in the 1500s, so again, I think a man thought of that.
of course, I mean, nice, isn't it?
A woman would never go. Well, any woman who wasn't me would go. I think it's a terrible idea to have somebody wash their dick in front of me. I'm literally the only person that would think that was a good idea if I was queen. I'd be like, wash away, do it slow though.
On that bombshell. Wow. This has
Nice
got,
and soapy.
yeah. Slower, slower. For anyone that's interested, this is going out on our Patreon and our
Let me hear that squeak.
God in heaven.
I mean, you baited me. What can I say?
Yeah. So I think you're gonna have to be cut off now from that wine. So before his disappearance, Lowenstein was married to a very upper class family. He was married to Madeline, but it was more of a marriage of convenience rather than out of love, because they slept in separate bedrooms, and Madeline has gone on record saying he cared about his racehorses more than he did her.
Didn't they always sleep in separate bedrooms in those days, though?
Yeah, but as
Wasn't
well,
it a thing?
yeah, I think there was a little bit of an age difference as well, and it was more he had money and he was marrying into aristocracy, let's say.
Might it not have been because one of them snored? Legit. In the 90s, my nana and granddad, they slept in separate rooms pretty much for my entire childhood, and it was because my nana snored and my granddad couldn't take it anymore. So they literally had two separate rooms, two huge double beds. Could it not be that just one of them snored?
It could absolutely be that, but then maybe later we'll see maybe there wasn't much love in the marriage. But we'll
Okay.
get on to that.
Okay.
So, on the evening of the 4th of July 1928, Lowenstein was leaving Croydon Airport. Which, right, that look, see, I was like, what? But at the time, it was the only international airport in London during 1918 to 1939.
And they decided Croydon was the best place to put it in.
I know, yeah, doesn't exist anymore. So it's not even like.
Wow, I wonder why.
It's not even City Airport. They've not even rebranded
The wheels
it.
were probably nicked off the plane along with the bloody wings.
Yeah, they've just like gone, fuck that, we'll get rid of it.
It's okay for anyone who lives in Croydon, don't be offended. Ant lived there once, right? You did, probably, yeah.
Been there once. So
Sorry.
he was on his own private aircraft. This wasn't a chartered flight, and he had it customised. Now, this was the plane that.
Well, fuck me, you should have put some walls on if he was going to customise it. Jesus
Actually,
Christ, it's a bit dangerous.
Maybe this is why what happened. But so he had his own custom desk. He had soundproofing, so he could speak to his two stenographers without shouting, and they could take down his notes. And
Is that a shower in the back?
no, at the back there is a lavatory compartment, and then directly opposite is the entrance and exit.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, now as
Let
you
down.
may be able to find out later on, this may be where it was a little bit of a bad design. So, also on the party, there was his valet, his personal secretary, and there was a pilot and a mechanic. So, all in all, there was 7 people, including Lowenstein, on this flight. Now, this was a top-of-the-range aircraft at the time. It was first built in 1925. So, this is 3 years after it's been built. So, obviously, maybe there's teething problems or whatever, but it's not like the Lolita Airways that we've already discussed, but it was a small 8 to 12 passenger, and it was it was the best you could buy at the time. So they took off, and as you can imagine, at some point over the English Channel, Lowenstein felt the call of nature. So he went to the bathroom, and he was never seen again.
Did he open the wrong door?
So after...
Or did he accidentally flush himself down the toilet?
See, now, look. Now, I know the 747s do have a massive suction on them. Because I've heard that, not by personal research.
I'm saying absolutely nothing.
But I don't believe that these 1925 airplanes had that massive suction on them.
I know, but what if he was like, oh, I think I like he sat down and like maybe he's heard like change drop down the toilet and he was like, oh shit, I forget it's dropped out, and he like lifted the toilet up to try and get to his change that he just dropped, and then there's this big hole in the floor and he just got sucked out.
Could be, but
More realistic option is that he chose the wrong door, didn't he?
yeah, there he is. He's not a small gentleman. That's his son on the right, by the way. There.
Really, I thought that was a girl.
I know, yes, you would, wouldn't you? But no, so he's not a small gentleman. He's got I mean, that hat'd get stuck in the.
I was going to say, I think it's just a hat makes him look taller.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think his head's that big.
Yeah. So maybe he got sucked down, but after a short while, and I mean probably 20 minutes, you know, you let him have his time there. The valet went to go knock on the door, and they probably took candles just in case, you know.
Oh, I wouldn't be taking candles to the toilet if he's been having his shit.
Get rid of that smell, innit? Burn it away.
Wait, it could ignite.
Well, yeah. So they went back there and they found no one in the toilet compartment. So they went to tell the pilot, obviously, as you would, and go, "Whoa, what's going on?" And the pilot decided, rather than to carry on their heading and land at the airport, which they were due to land at, which was 5 to 10 minutes away, he turned back and landed on the beach. Yeah.
What, like they were just gonna... We'll give this plane a good once over because he could be somewhere else apart from the toilet. Yeah, but there's literally like there's the toilet, the cockpit. You're in the cockpit, so if he was in it, you would know about it. We're in the seats, and we can tell you now. He hath nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
And we've just checked the toilet, and he's not there. So where the fuck is he?
It's a corridor. I mean, whether they thought they'd land on the beach and he'd be there swimming back to the shore like that, fuck, you know, that was a shit and a half. Or what? I don't know what they absolutely thought was going on there. But also, this is 1928, and rather than there being loads of like French topless beaches, the military actually controlled the beaches. So when the plane landed, there was a party from the local French 1st Battalion that was doing training exercises on this beach, and they went to confront these invaders because
Naturally.
just a random plane that's landed on the beach. Now, the police were called, obviously, after they explained the situation, but they didn't really explain it in fully, because when the police were called, they did tell the lead detective that there was a missing person, but it took them up to half an hour to tell the police the actual name of this missing person.
I mean, right, okay. I know they're like pretty shook up and probably having like the military come at them and go, hold a gun in their face and go, who the fuck are you? You just landed on our fucking beach, and all kinds of awful shit like that. That's probably traumatic enough, but to forget the person whose plane you are flying on
Yeah.
is a bit sus.
Yeah, yeah. So the lead detective did say that this was a most unusual and mysterious case, because when he was interviewing these 6 people, they kind of deferred the questions. They weren't honest and upfront. the two stenographers were crying, which is kind of an obvious reaction. But his personal secretary was sweating profusely, and his valet's teeth were chattering all the way throughout his questioning.
Well, yeah, he's just had a gun held to his head.
Yeah, I can kind of get that, but
Think about it from... Right, okay. So let's think about it from a Cluedo perspective, okay?
right.
Stay with me. Right. So say you're one of these people on the plane, right? And say you're totally innocent and you have no idea what's going on. There's nothing malicious. You haven't done anything wrong. And your boss suddenly isn't there anymore. I have bad network issues, yeah. Okay, and your boss suddenly isn't there anymore, and you know that you didn't do it, but somebody else on this plane had your boss sucked out through the toilet without you knowing about it. My teeth would be chattering too. I'd be like, how the hell did they achieve that? And you would literally be going, well, he said he didn't want a vodka and soda. That is sus as fuck to me. Okay? Free drinks. I'm sorry. You said no? No, I'm not cool with that, okay? You have never used the toilet once in this entire flight. That is sus. You know something about the toilet that I don't know, and it isn't that the first person in there had a stinking shit and you're giving it some time, okay? And thirdly, that woman, she doesn't even look remotely bothered. She just doesn't. Maybe he was horrible to her. It was probably her.
So basically, you'd throw everyone except yourself under the bus.
Well, obviously, I know I didn't fucking do it. Well, I know I didn't do it. I'm not going down for this. I'm not taking the rap for this. Oh, no. No. The Rock couldn't sing for it. No. I'm not going there.
Yeah. So, amazingly, the crew were all let off, and they were allowed to fly on and return to Croydon. Now, this means that they actually took off from the beach and returned to Croydon.
That is some awesome pilot.
Exactly. So, I mean...
It's mad skill.
Yeah. You kind of got to think about that, about everything. If he was a good pilot doing that, what else could he have done?
Yeah, he's a pilot, not a plumber, dude.
Well, I mean, okay, well...
He knows how to fly a plane. He doesn't know how to, take a toilet off and flush somebody down it and then put it back again like now it's a bother.
Okay, well...
I don't think pilots get their hands dirty like that.
You're really stuck on this toilet suction theory, aren't you?
Okay, so the only thing is, when you show me that picture of the plane, right, the door, for me, because, when you're on a plane and they open the door, it goes direct to outside, okay? If he opened the wrong door, somebody would have seen he'd opened the wrong door, and he's not likely to fucking get sucked out into the oblivion and close the door behind him, is he?
You don't know.
Oh, so he's just doing like the cartoon, like the wacky races running on air kind of thing as he shuts the door behind him and then goes and falls down. Like,
maybe.
No, I'm not buying it.
Right, okay.
Got flushed down the toilet.
Fair enough. So, as the rumours speculated about what had happened to Lowenstein, panic selling ensued and his company lost more than 50% in value. And then on the 12th of July, the accidents branch of the British Air Military did tests as to whether or not it was possible to open the door at altitude. Now, they apparently ran at the door at 1,000 foot while the plane was in the air.
No.
So
were they all strapped to each other, or
no? They were just like shoulder barging it. It's like,
oh right, okay. While it was in the air, okay,
yeah,
that seems
1,000 feet,
like a reasonable thing to do. Yeah, like a sane person would do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they would. I mean, they would try to test these theories
in the spirit of science. Yeah.
They were the accidents branch, so aptly named.
Imagine the paperwork that you would have to fill in for an accident with the accident branch.
Yeah.
Oof.
So the results of this experiment were that although they did manage to get the door open, it opened only 6 inches, and the slipstream caused the person doing it to fall back into the cabin, and the door was violently slammed shut. A week later, Lowenstein's body was found approximately 20 kilometres away from where the plane landed in Boulogne-sur-Mer, and it was found by fishermen and taken back to Calais. He was identified by a wristwatch and the silk underwear that he was wearing. So, fuck knows what them fishermen were doing.
It literally took a while to dawn on me as well. I was thinking, like, you know, like how Siri does face recognition. And when you said he was identified by a wristwatch, I was thinking, I don't think that's a very reliable source, to be honest, because how does the wristwatch even know what he looks like?
Wow, okay.
Like, Siri knows now, okay? And the
Yeah.
Google lady, she knows now. But I don't think a wristwatch in 1928 knows what he looks like, okay? I don't think a wristwatch, even if it did know what he looked like, I don't think it gives a shit.
So glad you
But
said
then
that.
it dawned on me that yes, no, it's because it was the wristwatch that he was wearing that somebody was like, yeah, no, that's his wristwatch.
And it also had his name engraved on.
Well, in case anyone
So,
nicks it.
a little bit of a giveaway. Uh, After an autopsy, here that his family actually insisted on, so there could be no rumours of shenanigans like I.e. he was poisoned or he was intoxicated. He never drank and he never took drugs. So his family said, no, we're going to have this autopsy just to put any rumours to the bed. And it revealed that he hadn't been killed before he left the aircraft. He'd had several broken bones and a partial fracture of his skull, which all meant that he was still alive when he hit the water.
Okay.
So, ow. It did turn up a little bit of alcohol in his system, and the
Well, yeah,
family
free
were a bit
drinks.
puzzled after this because he didn't drink, he was a teetotaler. He never actually drank. So,
Yeah, I tell my family I'm a teetotaler as
yeah, I
well.
know we all say that, don't we? And to be fair, him and his wife lived in separate rooms, so do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I tell me
The only
wife
thing he
that,
was
and
taking to bed was a bottle of gin.
yeah, exactly. So he was buried in Evier, which is just north in the city of Brussels, and he was buried in a tomb that belonged to his wife's family. But she didn't actually turn up to the funeral.
She was too distraught. I'm playing devil's advocate, okay?
That's absolutely fine, and I'm going back to they lived in separate rooms. She fucking hated the sight of him. But,
Just because she hated the sight of him didn't mean she killed a man.
well, now. So there's been a few theories put forward about what happened. Like, one was that apparently he was losing his faculties as he was getting older. He was only
Oh.
51, which,
What?
yeah, I think is a little bit of bullshit.
I think he's done really well because I'm there now and I'm only 36.
Yeah, I know. But apparently he'd been walking into rooms and forgetting why he was in the rooms, but that happens to anyone.
Do that now.
Yeah.
Legit.
So, I mean, that's something that is a natural thing. And he would open doors that he wasn't supposed to open and then walk into rooms he wasn't supposed to be in. I mean, not like in a Jimmy Savile way kind of thing, just like
That's a bit.
in like he'd open the bathroom and be like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be in here." Like kind of thing. Apparently, but this is all. He's not saying this. This is second-hand information from people who are maybe trying to say the narrative is that, oh, he must have opened the wrong door as he was going to the bathroom. He took a right instead of a left and ended up.
Getting sucked out of a plane that
Yeah.
you couldn't open the door to
Yeah.
in the air.
So it's been proved that you can't open this door, but this is what was being put down. Now,
Who the fuck is he, Captain America? How strong is he?
that's it. I mean, he was big, but I don't think he's that big. Now, as well, his businesses were built upon leveraging, which involves using debt rather than money he's got in his pocket. So he'd take on the debt of the company and then hope for an after-tax profit and then hope to turn the company round before that tax period is up.
That is hopeful.
So maybe he wasn't financially doing as good as people thought he was doing, and maybe he just decided to jump out the plane rather than face the consequences of any debt action that were going to come up. Now, for
But
me,
how did he open the door?
exactly, this is the thing. This is where it becomes a bit of a reach. The door is a thing that, unless they were all privy to it, they dropped down to an altitude where the door was easily opened, a speed where it was easily opened, and he did it that way. But then,
Yeah, but would that cause the fracture to his skull?
exactly, would that cause the injuries? Would it cause
Mm-hmm.
death? Then surely the cause of death would be by drowning.
Mm-hmm.
Surely. So that as well is a little bit weird. There was also a rumour that Lowenstein made a deal with the American crime boss Arnold Rothstein to start supplying opiates to the European market because he was in a bit of financial trouble. But there's no concrete evidence, and this is just kind of hearsay, and just because they were two people in the higher echelons of business, let's say, it just seems that's a massive reach. But William Norris, in his book The Man Who Fell from the Sky, aptly named, yeah, nice, claims that the pilot, Donald Drew, threw Lowenstein from the aircraft at the behest of his Lowenstein's wife, Madeline, so she could gain control of his fortune. Now, the reason why this may be a little bit more believable than anything else is because the reason that the plane landed on the beach rather than go to the airport was to replace the back door, which had been jettisoned in flight, which made it easier to throw Lowenstein from the aircraft. Now, there was a fisherman apparently at the time that saw something fall from the sky, like a parachute. Maybe that he could have seen the door falling. I don't know. But that's the most reasonable one for me.
Okay, let me just catch up here. Okay, so they're saying that they think that the theory is that the door blew off midair. They launched him out of the opening, killed him, then landed on the beach to repair the door.
So,
Or to replace the door. What, they just have a airplane charter jet door factory on the beach?
one would assume, well, I don't know what one would assume, but this relies on there being an easy way to jettison the door, maybe an automatic release. I don't know. It's 1920s. I very much doubt it. You'd have to open it. But if you lost cabin pressure, you'd have to open the door, escape, whatever. I don't know. But this is kind of what it's built on. So they jettisoned the door popped out, and then the pilot got up, picked Lowenstein up and threw him out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then they landed on the beach. They were met there by other people who were part of this plan to replace the back door before the French soldiers turned up. It's like all of these are a massive stretch. Like I don't know. There's something happened here, and we don't know what it is.
Okay, so he had two stenographers, presumably who were women, because in those days stenographers were women, weren't they?
Yeah.
The pilot was a man,
Yeah.
and his secretary, woman or man?
Man.
A man.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would mean that two men had to either get him marginally drunk and throw him out of a open door, or like if he's as big a guy as he looks, then two men had to wrestle with him to get him out of the door. And that means that all of these people who are quite happily employed by this man, probably well paid because he was very rich, had to be involved in this and want to kill their boss, putting them out of work and onto shit salaries.
Well, apparently they lived comfortably. I mean, not like super rich, but they lived comfortably for the rest of their days. From what I hear, I don't know. I didn't do any research into that, but I heard that on BuzzFeed. So blame Ryan and Shane on that one. But
Don't bring Ryan and Shane into this. You know we can't compete.
I know, but you have to start trying to think that there's some kind of conspiracy involved in this to believe what happened. I mean, realistically, what's more believable? That there was a conspiracy involved, which involved these 6 people that were on the plane and his wife, or he opened the wrong door while going for a poo?
Okay, so I don't believe either of those. Okay, because firstly, I've seen Murder on the Orient Express. Okay, and it takes a lot of legwork, right, to get 6 people all on board with the same thing, right? Secondly, there's no way he opened the wrong door because he wasn't Stretch Armstrong or Hulk Hogan. He wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
So that only leaves one plausible explanation, which is that he lost his change down the toilet, lifted the toilet out, and got sucked out the toilet.
Could be. Maybe he was in financial trouble and he needed all the change he could get, so he went to retrieve it.
No, I think he was just cheap. I don't even think he was out. He was like struggling for money. I think he was just like a bit frugal, you know. And I think he was just like, you know, every dime counts, quite literally. And he was like, I'm not losing it. I mean, I would be the same if I lost £1 down an airport toilet. You better believe I'm fucking riving that shit off the floor and I'm getting it. Pound's a pound, mate.
Pound is a pound. It's true.
He got flushed accidentally out the toilet.
Yeah. There is also the last theory, which is probably the most believable. If you
I thought you were going to say aliens. Oh, you're going to say aliens?
Yeah. No, that he faked his own death. Maybe he was having financial trouble. He didn't want to be involved anymore. But there
was a body.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't him. It was only identified by his wristwatch and his underwear. So, you know, hobos, 10 a penny in them days. So maybe, and apparently, the body stank so much that the fishermen didn't keep it on the ship. They just dragged it behind. So,
you know what it is? This isn't the first time we've heard this bullshit from seamen. Seamen. Do you remember that episode that we did with the sea monster thing? And they caught the sea monster, but the carcass stank so much that they fucking dragged it behind them, and by the time they got to port, the thing was ruined beyond recognition. Yeah, smart, okay? Just for the record, all seamen and women from now on, if you have a carcass, right, just put it in the fucking freezer or something, right? Because it might be useful later on, or we end up getting shit like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we get unsolved mysteries, and then we get Ant going, he probably faked his own death, and then me going, he definitely got flushed accidentally down the toilet, and then we have no agreement, and it just causes friction. It's just not good for anybody.
Well, yeah, and it's all your fault, Seaman. That's why all the friction in the world from seamen.
I should have chosen the word mariner, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
My fault.
So, I mean, but the only evidence for this is the actual fact that his wife didn't turn up to the funeral. And although he was buried in the tomb belonging to the family, his name was never put on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think just because she thought he was an arsehole doesn't mean she killed him.
No, I mean...
She might have just been like, well, at least I don't have to wash his dirty skid mark underwear anymore, but, you know, it's a bit... I mean, it sucks that he's dead, but I'm not going to cry about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You can't disappear from a flight without someone knowing what happened. So
unless you got flushed down the toilet. Because you
even
would have locked the
then-
door!
Even then, surely.
No, if you're having a poo, you lock the door, right? And then people just leave you alone for like max 45 minutes.
Not when there's 7 people on. Like, you'd be going, I need it. Oh, there's only 6 of us here. Okay, I'll wait for a minute until he comes back.
But he's your boss and he's a millionaire and it's his fucking plane. So if he wants to have a 45-minute dump, you let him have a 45-minute dump.
Exactly, so you don't need to close the door because you
Of
know
course
he's
he
in
needs to
there.
close the door. Maybe he likes his own privacy. Do you poo with the door? You know what? I don't even care. I don't want to know. Because I feel like I know the answer to this already, so I don't.
Let's not pull
No.
at that thread. Okay.
Maybe he's a gentleman who poos with the door closed and locked. Okay, maybe he's just an ordinary, normal person. Not like you, who shits with the door open. Like, your wife wants to see that bullshit. Oh, I'm taking your wife out for drinks. I've had enough.
Gonna move my toilet into the kitchen.
Oh,
Cook
God.
while I'm passing the time.
Oh, no! Oh. You're vile.
Yeah. So So that is the unsolved case of Albert Lowenstein.
He got flushed down the toilet.
He's not about anymore, really. So that's all we know on that one. And obviously, we're never gonna know what happened because no one was really questioned in depth, and what they were questioned with, they stuck to their story. So
Maybe because it was the truth. Maybe they didn't know anything about it. Maybe they were equally as freaked out as everybody else. Like, I don't know, he just went for a shit and then that's it. We just never saw him again until his body washed up. Literally, this is not the Orient Express. I mean, we're in the air for a start, not on a rail track. We didn't do this, okay? Clearly, he got flushed down the toilet by accident. Okay,
I mean,
it was a bit loose.
were
He
you-
was very frugal.
were you on
Didn't want to
this
pay for
flight?
repairs.
Is because you're sticking to this story quite convincingly. It's like, no, he did. He got flushed down the toilet, and that's all I'm gonna say. Where's my lawyer?
I just think out of all of the theories, I mean, I don't think Jet 2 would fly the same planes as they had in 1928. You know, they weren't exactly safe. Okay, maybe Jet 2 was a bad example.
Yeah.
Let's go with British Airways. You know what? Let's just go with a reputable air company.
Yeah.
I don't think that they
Insert
would have
your
used the
own
same
here.
technology, yes, that they used in 1928, and I don't think it was the most reliable. Okay, you know, they used to. I read somewhere that they either used arsenic in their drinks or something like that, or they used it as makeup. So I don't really think that they were the most advanced people in the world, and I feel like safety just wasn't first.
Yeah.
Like, if that toilet looks nice, we're gonna leave it like that. Well, shouldn't we screw it down? No, because the screw doesn't look very nice. It looks nice without the screws.
And as we all know, in the 60s and the 70s, they had ghosts in the overhead compartments and stuff.
He's doing that thing. Do you see he's doing that thing? Okay? But if you listen to the previous episode, I swear to fucking God I convinced him, right? He might not have been convinced with the ghost of Flight 401. Also, very believable. You need to read the book and you will believe every single goddamn word that I said. But don't believe everything he says. He's full of shit. He thinks this was a conspiracy. It was clearly just a accident. Death by misadventure.
Well, I'll tell you what, right, why don't yous out there in listener land tell us what you think? Who is right? Do you know what? Fuck it, put a poll up, right?
I'm gonna.
Right.
I can use the TikTok now.
Right. the TikTok.
TikTok. I can use the TikTok and the Snapchat.
Yes, we're very old. Please forgive us. It's past our bedtime.
Speak for yourself, I've got 20 minutes yet.
Yeah. Yeah, so on that bombshell, yeah, this has been the MO podcast, and as always, you've been with me, Consummation Sant.
And me, Atreya.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and we shall hopefully see you next time at an earlier time. I've missed my early bird special this week.
I'm missing songs of praise.
Oh, good God. Right, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast.